You are quietly convinced that the thing you already own is worth more than it actually is. The half-built app, the skill you grinded for 2 years, the business idea you've defended at every party since 2023. You're not protecting value here. You're protecting the story that you were right to start it. And that story is costing you more than you know. Here's a number that should bother you. In a famous experiment, people were handed a plain coffee mug and then asked what they'd sell it for. The ones holding the mug wanted roughly twice what buyers were willing to pay. Same mug, same room. The only thing that changed was who was holding it. Ownership doubled the price in their heads, instantly, before a single rational thought entered the picture. Now, swap the mug for your life. The project you can't quit. The city you have to stay in. The version of yourself you built at 19 and have been dragging around ever since. You think you're evaluating these things clearly. You're appraising your own reflection and calling it analysis. This is the endowment effect, and it runs deeper than shopping. The moment something becomes yours, your brain quietly reclassifies it. It stops being one option among many. It becomes part of you, and losing it starts to feel like losing a limb instead of closing a tab. Researchers found people demand more to give up something they own than they'd ever pay to get the exact same thing. The asymmetry is about the fear of letting go. So what does that fear actually do to a builder? It turns your past decisions into a prison. Think about the side project you've been almost finished with for 8 months. Be honest about why it's still alive. Maybe the market wants it. Or maybe it's because you've already sunk 300 hours into it. And quitting would mean admitting those hours bought you a lesson instead of a launch. That ache you feel at the thought of scrapping it, that's the mug in your hand. And the cruel part is that the more you've invested, the louder the bias gets. The skill you spent years sharpening feels too expensive to abandon, even when the world moved on. The audience you built on a dying platform feels too precious to leave, even as your reach quietly rots. You hold tighter precisely when you should be looking up and asking whether the thing still deserves your hands. But surely loyalty matters, right? Surely there's virtue in finishing what you start, in not being the person who flakes the second things get hard. There is. Grit is real, and quitting at the first sting of difficulty is its own kind of poison. But grit and the endowment effect wear the same costume, and that's the trap. One keeps you working through a hard, worthy problem. The other keeps you married to a dead one, because leaving feels like theft. The skill is telling them apart, and almost nobody trains it. Here's the test that cuts through it. Ask one question about anything you're clinging to. If I didn't already own this, would I choose it today, from scratch, with everything I now know? Sit with it on paper, even a few lines in something like Ponder, which prompts you with one Stoic question a day. Link in the description. And the honest answer surfaces faster than it does rattling around your skull. If you'd start the same project tomorrow, knowing what you know, then keep going with your whole chest. If you'd hesitate even for a second, you've found something you're keeping only because letting go hurts. Run that question on the things that actually matter. The apartment lease you renewed out of inertia. The business partner you stopped respecting a year ago. The morning routine that worked when you were 22 and now just runs on autopilot. The friend group that knows the old you so well, they can't let you become anyone else. Each one feels like it's yours. And each one is up for reevaluation today, whether you like it or not. There's a strange freedom waiting on the other side of that question, and most people never reach it because they confuse familiarity with worth. Picture your skills as a portfolio instead of a personality. Investors rebalance. They sell what's overvalued and buy what's mispriced, and they do it without crying about the stocks they let go. You can do the same with your time, your attention, your identity. The coding language that's fading, the content niche that's saturated, the grand plan you wrote at 23 that secretly stopped fitting the person you've become. Each one is a betrayal to drop. Your gut insists. Each one is just a position you're choosing to update. Watch how this plays out with money, because there it's almost comic. You'll grind for a refund on a $40 order that arrived broken. The same week, you'll let a subscription you never use bleed you for months, because canceling means admitting you wasted the last 6 payments. The pain of the loss already happened. You're just refusing to look at it. And every dollar you keep feeding it is a tax you pay to protect your own ego. Now, scale that tax up to your one finite life. Every hour spent maintaining something you'd never choose again is an hour stolen from the thing you would. That's the real bill the ownership bias sends you. And it never arrives as a single shock. It arrives as years, drained quietly, one loyal decision at a time. So why does the brain do this to us? At all, the instinct made sense once. For most of human history, losing what you had could kill you. The cautious ancestor who clutched the working spear and feared the unknown trade lived long enough to pass that fear to you. Hoarding was survival. The instinct that protected your great-great-grandmother is now keeping you on a dead project and in a comfortable rut. Old software running on hardware it was never written for. And notice where it bites hardest. Identity. A skill is easy to drop compared to a self. When you've spent years being the design guy or the crypto person or the one who's going to make it as a musician, that label fuses to your bones. Walking away feels like a small death. So you keep feeding a craft the world stopped rewarding, defending a title that fits worse every year. The label was a costume you chose once. You're allowed to change clothes. You can't delete the instinct, but you can stop obeying it on autopilot. The builders who actually compound over a decade are the ones who quit clean, fast, and without the funeral. They treat their own creations as experiments rather than monuments, which means they can love a project fully and still drop at the moment the data turns. Try this, starting now. Once a quarter, put your big commitments on trial. The project, the routine, the relationships, the goals you set when you were a different person. Make each one re-earn its place from zero, as if you just discovered it lying on the table. The ones that survive deserve everything you've got. The ones that don't, we're just borrowing your future. And expect it to feel like loss, because it will. Dropping something you built aches the same as actually losing it, even when keeping it was the slower death. That ache is the price of the upgrade. Pay it on purpose while you still have the years to spend, instead of letting it collect interest until you're 40 and wondering where the decade went. There's a sharper layer to this once you've told other people. The second you announce a plan out loud, it stops being a project and starts being your reputation. Now, the mug isn't just in your hand, it's on display. And everyone watching becomes a reason to keep gripping it. You defend the dropshipping store, the novel, the startup, long after the spark died, because quitting in public feels like a confession. So you keep performing belief in something you privately buried months ago. I'll give you a face for it. A friend of mine spent 2 years building a fitness brand he'd talked up to everyone he knew. The numbers stopped moving by month. 8. He kept going for 16 more, not for the customers, but because he couldn't stand the idea of the group chat watching him fold. When he finally killed it, the relief hit him before the grief did. The only person who'd needed the brand alive was the version of him afraid of looking wrong. You know that fear. It wears your face, too. That's the quiet trade nobody warns you about. You can protect your image, or you can protect your trajectory. And most of the time, you can't do both at once. The people you actually admire chose trajectory every time. They let old selves die in public and walked forward anyway, and within a year, nobody even remembered the thing they quit. The audience you're so scared of has a memory shorter than a weekend. You're the only one keeping score. So loosen your grip on the scoreboard. Your past choices were made by someone with less information than you have right now, which makes them suggestions, not vows. The you of today never signed that contract. Why are you still paying off its debts? Treat every commitment as a loan you can refinance. And suddenly, the weight of 100 old decisions stops dragging behind you like an anchor you mistook for a foundation. Here's the reframe that changes the whole game. You are the one doing the choosing, not the things you own, the skills you've stacked, or the projects you've shipped. The hand, not the mug. The second you really feel that, every possession and plan and identity becomes a tool you can pick up or set down instead of a weight bolted to your back. Most people spend their whole lives defending a version of themselves they'd happily refuse if it were offered fresh. They mistake the cost of leaving for proof they should stay. They die holding the mug, still insisting it was worth more to a buyer who was never coming. You can do the harder, better thing. Look at what you're gripping right now, the thing you've been calling commitment. Ask if you'd choose it fresh today. Then have the nerve to answer honestly and the colder nerve to act on it. Your future is built in the brave, unsentimental act of opening your hand.